How is child support calculated? In Missouri, we calculate child support based on what's called a Missouri Form 14. And here's a Form 14. It's a one-page document, and I'll try to link it, but basically you have two columns. You have a column for the payee, who is the person receiving the child support, and then you have a column for the payor, who's the person paying the child support. The main thing and your starting point is you want to include the income of each party. So you want to include the payee's gross income per month, and then you want to include the payor's gross income per month. And you're going to have some give, and maybe some people have income that fluctuates, so you might need to average the income. And then also people are sometimes, maybe they're temporarily unemployed, or maybe they just recently saw a temporary spike in their income due to a commission, and they're not going to get that consistently every year. So there is some give there on the income. You want to include that, and then we'll do a different video for all the nuance type stuff, disability payments and Social Security payments, military payments, things like that. What's all included in those income calculations. But for the most part, if a person, a simple scenario is a person gets a W-2 at the end of the year, they work 40 hours and make $2,500 per month gross. You just put your $2,500 in there for that person. Below the income on the Form 14, you have a few other considerations. So you have health insurance, daycare. Those are two of the big ones. And if either party is paying health insurance or paying daycare, they get a credit for that for the child support. And then there are a couple other nuanced things that we won't get into that don't really have a huge impact. Does the person have a child support obligation for another child? You're dealing with child support over your two children, Mary and David, but then you have another kid, Daniel, with your other ex-wife, and you're paying child support on that. Does that come into play? Yes, it does. You get a credit on the Form 14, so long as that's a court order for that child support to Daniel. You'll get a credit there. Now, the biggest, and I would say most overlooked aspect of the Form 14 and the child support calculation is, if you look at the very bottom, there's a visitation credit. And a person who does not, let's say there's a dad who does not see his children at all. And maybe that's not due to his own fault. Maybe that's not his own fault. But maybe let's say he's deployed overseas, or let's say he lives in a different country and can't see the kids very often. But let's also say, same situation would apply if the same outcome would arise if dad is in the same city in let's say St. Louis, and he just doesn't want to see his kids, and he doesn't take the time for them and things like that. So at the bottom left, it's called the Visitation Credit. In that situation, the dad is going to get a 0% visitation credit. And that has a really huge impact on the child support, because it doesn't, his child support, if it's $800 a month for two kids, normally, when he's seeing the kids frequently and seeing them like every weekend or every other weekend, something like that. But then let's say he doesn't want to see his kids at all, and he's getting a 0% visitation credit on that. Maybe his child support jumps up to like $1,300 a month. So he's going to be paying a substantially more money. So those are just a lot of just kind of the basic concept of the Form 14. And you want to make sure you're not overlooking anything. You want to make sure you also input the correct number of children into the Form 14. So you want to make sure you include, if you have two kids, you want to make sure you're putting two kids in there rather than putting in one kid or three kids or anything like that. So that's how child support's calculated in the state of Missouri.